Have you ever paused for a moment and asked yourself, what is the true nature of freedom? Is it merely the absence of physical chains, or is it something far deeper, a freedom of the heart and mind? The teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama on liberation through insight remind us that true freedom lies not just in changing our outer circumstances but in transforming our inner world. It's about awakening to the incredible truth within each of us. Imagine for a moment that the source of our suffering isn't the world itself, but our own ignorance, our own misunderstandings. How liberating would it be to finally see things as they are, free from the distortions of ego and false attachments? Join us in exploring the profound teachings of Buddhism, insight, meditation, and compassion. Subscribe channel and transform your journey. Ignorance, the deep, pervasive kind, is not just about lacking information, it's about fundamentally misunderstanding the nature of existence. We cling to the idea of a fixed, unchanging self, and in that grasping, we trap ourselves in the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, or samsara. It's the fear of loss, the desire for permanence, that binds us. But what if, just for a moment, we could let go of that illusion? What if we saw that everything is interconnected, always in motion, always changing? Wouldn't that be the beginning of real peace? The Dalai Lama draws wisdom from both Theravada and Mahayana traditions, guiding us to see beyond the illusion of a permanent self. He teaches that everything we think we are is just a collection of experiences, thoughts, emotions, sensations, ever-changing, without a solid core. What a relief to know that we are not the rigid identity we often defend so fiercely. Instead, we are as fluid and vast as the ocean, capable of change, of growth, of boundless compassion. Have you ever considered how everything is intertwined? How your happiness and suffering are bound up with those of others? The Dalai Lama speaks of emptiness, not as a void, but as the absence of separateness. We are all threads in the vast fabric of existence, each one essential, each one connected. This understanding of emptiness isn't about nihilism, it's about realizing that our boundaries are far more porous than we think. It's about knowing that we are not alone, we never have been. And then there's Bodhicitta, the heart of compassion. Can you imagine dedicating your entire journey not just to your own freedom, but to the freedom of all beings? To truly look at others and say, your happiness matters as much as mine? This is the path of the Bodhisattva, one who, through the fire of insight, transforms themselves, not just for personal liberation, but for the well-being of all. Compassion becomes the driving force, the wind beneath our wings, allowing us to transcend our personal struggles and embrace a greater purpose. Meditation, as the Dalai Lama teaches, is not an escape from the world but an entry into the deepest understanding of reality. To meditate on emptiness is to face the illusion directly, to sit with it until its hold begins to loosen. In this stillness, in the quiet depths of contemplation, we come to realize that our fears, our desires, our sense of self, they're all stories we've told ourselves. And what a beautiful, awe-inspiring realization it is when we see that we are free to tell a different story, one grounded in love, connection, and freedom. True liberation isn't just an intellectual concept. It's something that must be felt in the core of our being, transforming not only how we see ourselves but how we see everyone around us. The Dalai Lama reminds us that insight without compassion can become detached, even cold. And compassion without wisdom can be misguided. We need both, like two wings of a bird, to truly soar. Insight cuts through ignorance, and compassion ensures that we are always guided by the desire to alleviate suffering, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. So, what does it mean to be truly free? It means realizing that the walls we've built, between ourselves and others, between who we are and who we could be, are illusions. It means stepping beyond fear, beyond ego, and seeing the world in its vast, interconnected beauty. It means understanding that our liberation is tied to the liberation of all beings, and dedicating ourselves to that cause with courage, wisdom, and boundless love. The journey is not easy, but it is deeply worthwhile. With every step, we inch closer to the realization that freedom was never something outside of us, it was always within, waiting to be discovered through insight, through compassion, through the interconnected dance of all existence. Let's walk this path together, hand in hand, with open hearts and open minds, toward a liberation that is vast enough to hold all of us. What is true freedom? A deeper dive. Freedom is one of those concepts that seem simple on the surface, but the deeper you look, the more profound and intricate it becomes. Think of the times in your life when you felt truly free. Maybe it was while standing atop a mountain, gazing out at a wide-open landscape. Maybe it was a fleeting moment of laughter shared with loved ones. In those moments, freedom feels real, almost tangible. But is that fleeting sense of joy and openness the same as true liberation? The Dalai Lama urges us to look beyond these transient moments and consider a deeper, more lasting kind of freedom, a freedom of the heart and mind that remains unshaken, even when life brings suffering and challenges. He teaches us that true liberation is not dependent on external circumstances, it comes from within, from the insights we cultivate about the nature of existence and our place in it. Imagine being free, not because the conditions of your life are perfect, but because you have learned to let go of the attachments that bind you. How empowering would that be? This inner freedom does not mean detachment from life or an inability to feel. Quite the opposite. It is about feeling deeply, being fully present with whatever arises, joy, pain, love, or sorrow, but without being ensnared by it. It's about experiencing the richness of life without the fear of losing it. True freedom is about embracing impermanence and seeing beauty in change, even when it is difficult. The role of insight in liberation. Insight, the kind that the Dalai Lama speaks of, is not just knowledge or intellectual understanding. It's a profound realization that comes from seeing things as they are. But what does it mean to see things as they are? It means stripping away the illusions that cloud our vision, the illusion of a permanent self, the illusion that we can find lasting happiness in material things, the illusion that we are separate from others. Take a moment to reflect on the idea of a permanent self. Isn't it true that we spend much of our lives trying to reinforce this idea? We define ourselves by our careers, our relationships, our successes, and our failures. We say, I am this, or I am that, and cling to those identities as if they were solid and unchanging. But are they? Think about yourself 10 years ago. Are you the same person you were then? Your body has changed, your thoughts have changed, your experiences have shaped you in countless ways. The self you cling to is not fixed, it is in constant flux. When we understand that there is no fixed, independent self, we begin to loosen the grip of ego. We start to see that our fears and desires are rooted in a misunderstanding. We fear loss because we believe there is something permanent to lose. We crave stability because we think it will bring us lasting happiness. But if everything is impermanent, then clinging to anything, whether it's a person, a possession, or an identity, is bound to bring suffering. Insight into the true nature of reality helps us let go of this clinging and opens the door to genuine freedom. Embracing emptiness, the key to true understanding. The concept of emptiness, sunyata, is one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism, and it is central to the Dalai Lama's message on liberation. Emptiness does not mean that nothing exists, rather, it means that things do not exist in the way we think they do. They do not have an independent, unchanging essence. Everything that exists does so in dependence on other things, on causes, conditions, and perceptions. Consider a simple example, a flower. When we look at a flower, we see it as a distinct, separate entity. But is it really independent? The flower depends on the seed it grew from, the soil that nourished it, the sunlight that allowed it to grow, the water that sustained it. It also depends on our perception. Without someone to perceive it, can we even say that the flower exists in the way we understand it? The flower is empty of independent existence because it is the result of countless interdependent factors. This understanding of emptiness can be incredibly liberating. It shows us that nothing, not even our own identity, exists in a fixed or isolated way. Everything is interconnected, part of a vast, dynamic web of existence. When we truly understand this, we begin to see the futility of clinging to anything as mine or permanent. We start to let go of the ego-driven need to control, to possess, to dominate. Instead, we can flow with life, responding to each moment with openness and compassion. Bodhicitta, the heart of compassion. At the heart of the Dalai Lama's teachings is the concept of bodhicitta, the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. This altruistic intention is what transforms personal liberation into something much greater. It's not just about freeing oneself from suffering, it's about dedicating oneself to the liberation of all. Can you imagine what it would be like to live with such an expansive heart? To look at every person you meet, strangers, friends, even those who have wronged you, and wish for their happiness as much as you wish for your own? This is not an easy path. It requires a deep transformation of the way we see ourselves and others. But it is also deeply fulfilling. When we cultivate bodhicitta, we begin to see that our own happiness is inseparable from the happiness of others. We are all in this together, and the only way to find true freedom is to help others find it too. Compassion, as the Dalai Lama teaches, is not just a feeling, it is a force that drives us to act. It is the motivation that keeps us moving forward on the path, even when it is difficult. It helps us to transcend our own limited concerns and connect with something greater. And in doing so, it brings us a profound sense of purpose and meaning. Meditation, the gateway to insight. Meditation is a key practice in the pursuit of liberation. It is through meditation that we develop the clarity and stability needed to see things as they are. The Dalai Lama emphasizes that meditation is not about escaping from the world or achieving a temporary state of bliss. It is about facing reality head-on, with courage and openness. There are many forms of meditation, but one of the most powerful for cultivating insight is the meditation on emptiness. This involves analyzing our experiences, our thoughts, our perceptions, and seeing how they lack any inherent, independent existence. It is not enough to simply understand this concept intellectually, we must experience it directly. And that takes practice. Through sustained meditation, we begin to loosen the hold of our ingrained beliefs and see the world with fresh eyes. Imagine sitting in meditation and observing your thoughts as they arise. You notice a thought about yourself, perhaps a memory of something you did, or a worry about the future. Instead of getting caught up in the thought, you ask yourself, who is this I that I am thinking about? Where is this self that I am so concerned with? As you look more deeply, you begin to see that the self is not a solid entity but a collection of changing experiences, thoughts, emotions, sensations. There is no fixed I to be found. This realization can be both disorienting and liberating. It challenges the very foundation of how we see ourselves, but it also opens up a new way of being, one that is free from the confines of ego. Ethical conduct and concentration, foundations for liberation. The journey to liberation requires more than just insight, it also requires a strong foundation of ethical conduct, sla, and concentration, samadhi. Ethical conduct is about living in a way that creates harmony, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others. It involves refraining from actions that cause harm and cultivating positive qualities like honesty, kindness, and generosity. Why is ethical conduct so important for liberation? Because it creates the conditions for a clear and peaceful mind. When we act unethically, we create turmoil within ourselves, guilt, anxiety, fear. This inner turmoil makes it difficult to meditate, to see things as they are. Ethical conduct helps us to live in a way that supports our practice, that allows us to approach meditation with a clear conscience and an open heart. Concentration, or samadhi, is another essential foundation. It is the ability to focus the mind, to remain steady and undistracted. Without concentration, our minds are like a candle flickering in the wind, easily swayed by every passing thought or emotion. Through the practice of concentration, we develop the stability needed to look deeply into the nature of reality. It is this stability that allows insight to arise. The interplay between insight and compassion. Insight and compassion are like two wings of a bird, both are needed for true liberation. Insight without compassion can lead to detachment, even coldness. When we see that the self is an illusion, we might be tempted to withdraw from the world, to see the suffering of others as not my problem. But this is a misunderstanding. True insight reveals not only the emptiness of the self but also the interconnectedness of all beings. And when we see this interconnectedness, compassion naturally arises. Compassion without insight, on the other hand, can be misguided. We may want to help others, but without a deep understanding of the nature of suffering, our efforts may be ineffective or even harmful. Insight helps us to see clearly, to understand the root causes of suffering, and to respond in a way that is truly helpful. The Dalai Lama teaches that the combination of insight and compassion is what leads to true liberation. Insight cuts through the ignorance that binds us, while compassion ensures that our actions are always motivated by the wish to alleviate suffering. Together, they create a path that is both profound and practical, one that leads not only to personal freedom but to the well-being of all beings. Walking the path together. The journey to liberation is not one that we undertake alone. We are all in this together, and our liberation is bound up with the liberation of others. The Dalai Lama often speaks of the importance of community, of supporting each other on the path, of sharing our insights and our struggles. When we walk this path together, we draw strength from each other. We remind each other of what is possible, of the incredible potential within each of us. True freedom is not a solitary pursuit, it is something that we create together. It is about breaking down the walls that separate us, seeing the beauty in our shared humanity, and working for the liberation of all beings. It is about realizing that our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others, that our suffering is not separate from the suffering of others. When we see this, we begin to live in a way that is truly free, free from the confines of ego, free from the illusion of separateness, free to love and to serve. The journey is not easy, and there will be challenges along the way. But it is a journey worth taking. With every step, we come closer to the realization that freedom was never something outside of us, it was always within, waiting to be discovered through insight, through compassion, through the interconnected dance of all existence. Let's walk this path together, hand in hand, with open hearts and open minds, toward a liberation that is vast enough to hold all of us. Practical applications of Buddhist teachings in daily life. Buddhist teachings are not meant to be abstract concepts reserved for scholars and monks, they are practical tools meant to be used in everyday life. The Dalai Lama's teachings on insight, compassion, and interconnectedness can transform the way we relate to ourselves, others, and the world around us. But how do we apply these teachings in our daily routines, our relationships, and our challenges? Practicing mindfulness in daily activities. Mindfulness is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to apply Buddhist teachings in daily life. Mindfulness means being fully present in each moment, whether we are eating, working, talking, or resting. Instead of letting our minds wander to the past or the future, we bring our awareness to what is happening right now. When we wash the dishes, we feel the warmth of the water, the texture of the plate. When we speak with a friend, we listen deeply, without distractions. This simple practice of mindfulness can transform ordinary activities into opportunities for growth and insight. It helps us break free from habitual patterns of thought and behavior, allowing us to respond to situations with greater clarity and compassion. Mindfulness also helps us see our thoughts and emotions as they arise, without being overwhelmed by them. Instead of reacting automatically, we can choose how to respond, creating more space for wisdom and kindness in our actions. Cultivating compassion in relationships. Relationships are one of the most important areas where we can apply Buddhist teachings. The Dalai Lama emphasizes that compassion should be at the heart of all our interactions. This means seeing others not as separate from ourselves, but as fellow human beings who, like us, want happiness and wish to avoid suffering. In practice, cultivating compassion in relationships means listening deeply, being patient, and being willing to forgive. It means putting ourselves in the shoes of others and trying to understand their perspective, even when we disagree. It means recognizing that everyone has their struggles, and that their behavior, whether kind or unkind, is often a reflection of their own suffering. When we approach relationships with compassion, we create a space where healing and connection can happen. We are less likely to take things personally, and more likely to respond with understanding rather than anger. Compassion also means extending kindness to ourselves. Just as we are patient with others, we must also be patient with our own imperfections and struggles. Self-compassion is an essential part of the path to liberation, as it allows us to face our own suffering without judgment or resistance. Letting go of attachments. One of the core teachings of Buddhism is that attachment leads to suffering. This does not mean that we should not love or care for others, but rather that we should not cling to people, things, or ideas as if our happiness depends on them. Letting go of attachment means recognizing that everything is impermanent and that true happiness comes from within, not from external circumstances. In daily life, letting go of attachment might mean releasing our need for control, over our environment, over others, over outcomes. It means accepting that we cannot always get what we want, and that things may not always go according to plan. Letting go also means being willing to release grudges and forgive those who have wronged us. Holding on to resentment only keeps us bound to the past, while forgiveness frees us to move forward with an open heart. Turning challenges into opportunities for growth. Life is full of challenges, difficult relationships, health issues, financial struggles, loss. The Dalai Lama teaches that these challenges are not obstacles to our spiritual path, they are the path. Each challenge is an opportunity to practice patience, compassion, and wisdom. When we face difficulties, we can choose to see them as opportunities for growth rather than as unfair burdens. For example, when we are faced with a difficult person, we can see it as an opportunity to practice compassion and understanding. When we experience loss, we can use it as a reminder of the impermanence of all things, and as an opportunity to reflect on what truly matters in life. Challenges are also opportunities to let go of our ego, to realize that we are not in control of everything and that our worth is not defined by our successes or failures. Living with gratitude and interconnectedness. Another practical application of Buddhist teachings is cultivating a sense of gratitude and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. When we realize that nothing exists independently, we begin to see how much we depend on others for our well-being. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the air we breathe, all of these are the result of countless beings and conditions coming together. Living with a sense of gratitude helps us to appreciate the small blessings in our daily lives and to recognize the contributions of others. It also helps us to let go of a sense of entitlement and to cultivate humility. Gratitude can be practiced in simple ways, by taking a moment each day to reflect on what we are thankful for, by expressing appreciation to those around us, or by offering our time and resources to help others. Transforming work into a spiritual practice. For many of us, work is a significant part of our daily lives, and it can also be a powerful area for applying Buddhist teachings. The Dalai Lama encourages us to approach our work with mindfulness, integrity, and a sense of service. When we bring mindfulness to our work, we become more focused and less stressed. We are able to approach tasks with a sense of purpose rather than as a means to an end. Work can also be a way to practice compassion. Whether we are interacting with colleagues, customers, or clients, we have the opportunity to treat others with kindness and respect. We can also see our work as a form of service, contributing to the well-being of others, whether directly or indirectly. Even if our job does not seem to have an obvious connection to helping others, we can still approach it with the intention of doing our best and making a positive impact. Conclusion: integrating Buddhist teachings into daily life. The teachings of the Dalai Lama are not meant to be abstract concepts, they are practical tools that can transform our daily lives. By practicing mindfulness, cultivating compassion, letting go of attachments, embracing challenges, living with gratitude, and transforming our work into a spiritual practice, we can bring the wisdom of Buddhism into every aspect of our lives. True freedom is not something that we achieve once and for all, it is something that we cultivate moment by moment, in the way we think, speak, and act. Each moment is an opportunity to let go of ignorance, to see the world with fresh eyes, and to respond with an open heart. By applying these teachings in our daily lives, we can move closer to true liberation, not just for ourselves, but for all beings. Let us remember that the journey to liberation is not a solitary one. We are all in this together, and our actions, no matter how small, have the power to create ripples of compassion and wisdom in the world. Let us walk this path with courage, with mindfulness, and with love, knowing that each step we take brings us closer to a world where all beings are free.